presenting is Frankenstein a warning or an homage to modern science? Science has made a lot of progress throughout the years. This progress is due to the diligent, obsessive work of many scientists. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein offers a brilliant point of view into their diligent work. In this book, we follow Victor Frankenstein, a scientist who is obsessed with creating life. But instead of creating life, he ends up creating a monster. He then becomes obsessed with destroying and ignoring this monster. Throughout these two different stages of obsession, we see Victor Frankenstein his physical and mental health slowly deteriorate, making Mary Shelley's Frankenstein a warning for modern scientists that obsessing over their work can give them tunnel vision, which will negatively affect their health. Victor experiences many intrusive thoughts that make it impossible for him to live a normal life outside of his study. Intrusive thoughts are characterized as something that somebody cannot control, and they are constant thoughts. And these constant thoughts are seen in how Victor Frankenstein perceives his environment. A flash of lightning illuminated the object and discovered its shape plainly to me. Its gigantic stature and the deformity of its aspects, more hideous than belongs to humanity, instantly informed me that it was the wretch. Victor sees the creature in every single one of his shadows. This is because of his constant intrusive thoughts telling him that that is so. These intrusive thoughts damage his psyche as they damage his perception of the world, but it also damages his physical health. How I have lived I hardly know. Revenge kept me alive. I dare not die and leave my adversary in being. This is in the third act, where Victor is feverishly chasing the monster. If it weren't for his intrusive thoughts constantly deranging him and forcing him to go and chase after the monster, he may be safe in Geneva, living the rest of his life in relative safety and away from this monster. But because of his obsession, he gives him intrusive thoughts and makes his last journey of life very perilous. Phil Kennedy's intrusive thoughts mirror Victor Frankenstein's intrusive thoughts. Phil Kennedy is a scientist who works with patients that have ALS. People who have ALS cannot communicate. He then attempts to connect these patients to different computers for them to communicate better. But this is not enough for Phil Kennedy, who wants to explore further depths between the computer and the brain. These further depths would have to be made through surgical implants in the brain, but these surgical implants are very invasive and are not approved by the FDA. This made it that Phil Kennedy took the surgery elsewhere and overseas. I tried to talk myself out of it for years. He fabricated the electrodes the neurosurgeon would implant in his motor cortex, even chose the spot where we wanted them buried. Phil Kennedy, instead of taking the safe decision of staying home because of the nagging thoughts that he had in his brain, went ahead with this invasive procedure. It meant that he could not speak for a couple of days after the surgery and had to remove them at the risk of his own health. And a few bumps and bruises after the surgery, but I did get 4 weeks of good data. I'll be working on these data for a long time. Even though he could have died at multiple instances, he still sees this whole experience as positive, just how Victor is constantly looking for the monster, even at the detriment of his own health. Both of these men keep going past the recommended limit because of their constant nagging intrusive thoughts. Victor experiences depression and manic episodes once he has failed in his goal. His depressive and manic episodes are seen in 2 different aspects, and 2 different acts in the book as well. His depressive episode is seen after he has initially failed in the creature, where he is bedridden. I was lifeless and did not recover my senses for a long time. This was the commencement of a nervous fever which confined me for several months. Depression is obviously very damaging to your mental health, as many people who have depression stay bedridden for days and months. His then manic episode is very dangerous to his physical health, as he walks and walks and walks for months and months, and even when offered help does not accept it. "Before I come on board your vessel," said he, "will you have the kindness to inform me whither you are bound?" These 2 different emotional states are caused by his failure and his extreme obsession with his goals. This extreme obsession with completing your goals at the detriment of your health and even at the ends and expense of your life are compared to those of Hiriko Obokatawa and Yoshiki Sasai. They are 2 scientists, Yoshiki Sasai being Hiriko Obokatawa's pupil and Hiriko Obokatawa being the lead scientist of this experiment, trying to create stem cells, or falsely created stem cells should be more correct. Stem cell experts soon pointed out numerous errors in the 2 papers, together with possible examples of plagiarism and images that appeared to be duplicated or miscalculated. This is a proof that the stem cells that they created or thought they created were not actually real. Many scientists even tried to recreate their experiment without any sort of results. Instead of taking the normal position, which is to retract their papers and to move on and trying different experiments, they both fell into extreme stress. This extreme stress even unfortunately led to Yoshiki Sasai killing himself, as he could not handle the thought of failure. In a farewell letter found at his death, Sasai reportedly apologized for the turmoil, but urged Obokatawa to continue her work and prove her detractors wrong. Instead of trying to move on with his life, Sasai urged his co-worker in a very dangerous pursuit of trying to prove a paper that cannot be proven, as the results were flawed. Both these people, Yoshiki Sasai and Victor Frankenstein, are very similar, as they would rather die than see their goals not completed, which is obviously a very dangerous mindset and leads to many depression and, for Victor Frankenstein's case, manic episodes.